So Gal, you're here for round 1 of daily D&T this week. While we don't have an Ether Vial, we do have a pretty powerful curve of Mom into Thalia into Stoneforge. We're going to keep this hand. It is effectively a 6-card hand because the Batterskull is already here, but it could give our opponent a nice surprise. We are likely playing the Mirror, in which case I really like our hand if this Mom doesn't get removed. It means we're not just going to be soft to an initial Stoneforge from our opponent. Alright, just going for Jitte. This will be very good. So that means we're not going to want to play our own Thalia, because on turn 3 we can hold up Swords to Plowshares for my opponent trying to get through with a creature while also going and putting in my own piece of equipment. So my opponent's hypothetical best play here would probably be land Flicker Wisp, Stoneforge, get another piece of equipment. Now that does not gain them a lot right here. So my mom gets to make it, so I don't care about this Crusader. It can't get in this turn. And if I'm being totally honest, I probably won't even give it protection. Sorry, I won't even give protection if my opponent crashes in with it. I'll just take that hit, play it safe. So these are the basic lands from the new unset, in case you were wondering. I don't love them myself. I like the swamp one. But I'm not huge on the plains one. You know, this screams like desert to me. I know it's not sand, but that's kind of the impression that I get. That's super awkward. Actually, no, it's not. I need to activate my Stoneforge now, but I can just Swords to Plowshares that thing. Since I can just Swords to Plowshares it, I don't think I should take an action here. It's awkward if their next follow-up play is Swords to Plowshares, and they Swords to Plowshares my Stoneforge in response. But I can still get onboard Jitte counters if that happens, so that's not the end of the world. I allow this to happen. So again, Swords to Plowshares, slightly awkward here. So let's see if my opponent has it. Nope. So I need to use my mom for protection on my turn. I need to give pro-white in order to get through the Crusader. So because of that, I think it's fine to go ahead and put in the Batterskull. And then use my mana for Jitte. That's a fine draw as well. Alright, we have protection from white. So the question is, do I want Jitte counters this turn, or do I want Sword of Fire and Ice? My opponent has Batterskull. Putting Sword of Fire and Ice on is better. Because either way, I can get rid of Mirror Crusader if my opponent doesn't have Batterskull. I guess my opponent has Batterskull and they block with Batterskull, and I have 2 Jitte counters left around. That's fine too. Let's not get cute. We'll just take the Jitte counters. So then my opponent will put in their Jitte here. We're relatively far ahead, since opponent did not have Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, here's one of the potential downsides of playing with flagstones. Oh, don't make this attack, opponent. Don't do it. No, don't do it. This is a very bad attack. We're going to shrink Stoneforge Mystic, right? Stoneforge Mystic now does not have power. Accordingly, opponent does not get Jitte counters. Realizing their error, they have conceded the game. Let me clarify that statement. My opponent might have felt like their situation was so hopeless that their only out was playing toward me making an error. So, like, that was a very bad attack, but, like, my opponent's position could have been disastrously bad. I don't know the rest of their hand, and that might have been their only way back in the game in the short term. Alright, what do we have for the mirror today? We need 6 cards, because we need to take out Prelate, and 4 Thalias. 3 Council's Judgments are easy, the Pithing Needle is easy. I guess this means we're boarding in a path, and then we do not have a final card that's acceptable to board in. That means we're going to have to keep 1 Thalia in. I do think Thalia is better than Prelate, because Thalia can just, like, stop a Stoneforge or a Revoker from picking up a piece of equipment or something like that. But Thalia is just so awkward with a pile of Caracas, and, like, it also sometimes trips you up with your Council's Judgments, especially when you're on the draw. Early Stoneforge is great and all, but I have no ability to interact with my opponent with the cards that I currently have. Double Council's Judgment is awesome. If my opponent just like starts on an Ether Vial and I miss a land drop, I don't see myself winning this game. And if my opponent has a Wasteland for my Caracas, I don't see myself winning this game. I'm going to mulligan to a safer hand. I'm not happy. This hand's bad. I don't think it's worth going to 5 because we can potentially screw our opponent out of an Ether Vial-based hand. But if our opponent continues to hit land drops here, like, big yikes. So like a Stoneforge Mystic from them this turn is pretty threatening. Or even just a Swords to Plowshares on the Mom that I'm going to play next turn is threatening. Alright, so there was the auto-lose for the first hand. Yikes. There is a cost to playing flex slot lands that aren't just basics. Am I going to respect my life total more or my second white source more? These are out. Second white source enables Council's Judgment. I'm going to respect the second white source more. There's also worlds where my opponent doesn't wasteland me. They just, like, Council's Judgment away my Pithing Needle and run away with the game via Ether Vial. I don't have a Walking Ballista in this list, do I? No, that was in my recommended cards. Jailer is potentially good, but I think I'm just going to go for Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisping my Recruiter is currently safe, or Flicker Wisping my Stoneforge to get a sword. And getting a flyer is going to break the ground stall that we're seeing here. And I value that pretty highly. My opponent's on-board Mom is better than my Mom, since they have a colorless creature. That's bad. That's very bad. In all likelihood, this hits my Pithing Needle, unlocking my opponent's Ether Vial. Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm so on board with this. I still have an amazing Flicker Wisp target. Hmm. I can Council's Judgment my opponent's Revoker and follow that up with Jitte Equip. I'm not sure that I need to do that. I think I can also just win this game by Flicker Wisping the Stoneforge, putting Sword of Fire and Ice on Stoneforge, and riding that to victory. I think I'm going to keep my Council's Judgment for if my opponent gets a piece of equipment of their own. Because that's the way that I see this game slipping away. My opponent had the opportunity to remove the Pithing Needle and did not. So that tells me their hand isn't full of 3-drop creatures. So their hand could just be full of equipment. And they might be waiting for 4 mana to just go like Jitte Equip in 1 turn and like quote unquote go for it. The other thing my current hand pressures them to do is remove one of my lands via their wasteland. Ooh. Okay. That is mighty interesting. We have a game again. So my opponent will probably wasteland the Silent Clearing. Or the Rishadan Sure. My Council's Judgment is kind of like a 2-for-1, because it can get rid of their Leon and Relic Warder while also re-shutting off the Aether Vial. And my opponent isn't going to know what I vote for until it resolves. No, this will be a trigger, so they can't respond to it. Old templating, not new templating. And I think it's stronger to play out and use the equipment in the same turn. So I think my 2 lines this turn are either Council Judgment away, Relic Order, stop their Vial, or play a Mom and put in Sword of Fire and Ice to try to connect next turn. I'm tight on mana either way. My read earlier, though, was that they didn't have a bunch of 3-drops in hand. Continuing on that read, maybe I just leave the Vial. I'm not going to make an attack. A Recruiter. Okay. That's a little punishing for me. So opponent will just get a Flicker Wisp there, because Flicker Wisp does everything. comp that out so I don't forget about that. I mean, that's awkward. So that prompts this. I put in my sword. That compels opponent to name sword. So that's okay. So now that I have... So I dislike my line now. I think I should have put in the Jite on their turn. That way I could Council Judgment this Revoker instead. What are you going to do? I'm not sure what I'm doing with this Council Judgment yet. It's largely going to depend on what my opponent does in response to this. Sure. So I can unlock one of my pieces of equipment. Or I can just take out their mom. And start playing towards a Palace Jailer-based win instead of an equipment-based win. If my opponent has the third Revoker, removing one of these Revokers isn't all that good. I can also just take the Vial and choke them on mana. But if I take the Vial, they just Recruiter for Stoneforge, play Stoneforge, and are 2-ish turns away from... No, their own Revokers are problematic there. Really interesting game. I'm going to take out their mom and play towards Palace Jailer. I am 100% not sure if that is correct or not. But this also opens up like my top deck Swords to Plowshares and such to be absolutely brutal. Yeah, that I expected. Opponent's Relic Warder quietly did a ton of work at keeping them in this game. Alright, so how does this turn play out? I Swords to Plowshares. A Revoker on Sword of Fire and Ice. I equip Flicker Wisp. I attack in. I can kill one thing. That one thing can be their Relic Warder. Am I worried about getting attacked back in the air with Jitte if I do this? I am, because I won't have another flyer back. No, I'm not, because of their Revoker. So assuming that they respond to my Swords to Plowshares by saving their Revoker, everything's fine. But if they don't respond by saving their Revoker, things get weird. I'm going to go ahead and take this line, though. Yeah, that's the things get weird scenario. Alright, crap. So now I can't really equip. I should say I can't really equip and attack. Because if I equip and attack, my opponent could Flicker Wisp out their Revoker on Jitte, switch it to something else, and then like my opponent comes down with 2 Jitte counters and everything's a disaster. So I'm just gonna pass the turn. I think my opponent potentially made a mistake by not activating their Vial before now. We'll see if I'm right in a minute. But I have a feeling that they wanted to do something with their Vial on my second main phase. This is definitely one of those games where I wish I wasn't streaming so I could give it my full attention. Say this a lot, but my win percentage tends to go down by about 10% when I'm either streaming or recording. So if you ever notice, like, streamers going and missing something that's just, like, very clear and has been on board for a long time, it's because we're using our mental energy. Yeah. It's because we're using our mental energy trying to, like, figure out how we talk through various lines. Rather than paying full attention to the game. So I think it was like yesterday on stream, I like went through this long elaborate description of a line, and then someone's like, hey, your sorcerer spyglass is on that, so like that doesn't matter. And I'm like, oh yeah. That sort of thing happens a lot. That's terrifying for me. You have no good attacks. I have moms. There's no monarch crown to steal yet. I'm going to let my opponent return the Revoker. Because I think they named Sword of Fire and Ice. If so, I put in my own Jitte. They named Mother of Runes. Okay. Well, this could fall apart for you, friend. Depending on what you have. This is definitely the all-in turn, though. So did my opponent forget that I had Jitte and all of that, or have they naturally drawn a Flicker Wisp or Swords to Plowshares? So let's talk about where the worlds where everything goes right. The worlds where everything go right involve me connecting this turn with a Jitte. If I don't connect with the Jitte this turn, I think I straight up lose because my opponent will get to connect with Jitte and just mow down my board. So, what are the best scenarios where I get Jitte? It involves me still having the Flicker Wisp back to potentially block an opposing Flicker Wisp. Because I could kill my opponent's mom, kill my opponent's Revoker, block Flicker Wisp, and do some line like that. So I'm going to play into my opponent having Mirroring Crusader here by taking this line. God damn it. Alright, we lost this game. I am in fact going to concede this game here for clock reasons, which is why I didn't play the Ether Vial, in case the game goes long like that again. But now that the clock isn't running, to talk through this line a little bit more. If I put the Jitte on Flicker Wisp and attack, I'm priced into using a counter on Flicker Wisp if they put one there, which is something that I don't necessarily want to do. And my opponent will also just like trade off the Flicker Wisp body, and then I can run into ground stall issues again if I end up removing this, which is something that I would want to do. So like I do not regret my line. You know, I played into what was probably a one of, but I think it was very correct to do so. That's a little frustrating after all of that. Keep. Hand's great. Excuse me. Could mutually assured destruction and like stop the Aether Vials here since I have a bunch of lands, but I'd rather save this to stop a piece of equipment. I also need to save this to potentially stop Mother of Runes, because my opponent having one of those would be pretty annoying. No flyer currently. My opponent's Aether Vial is unquestionably better than my Aether Vial. I have just like absolute garbage in my hand. Like, definitely hoping my opponent doesn't have a good play this turn. Because my hand's probably bad enough that we're just on, like, an aggro Jitse hand, hope for the best. I'm gonna tap this on 2 now. Try to incentivize my opponent to use their Vial. No, they just have the random Relic Warder. That's frustrating. Oh, no, they have a Revoker. I mean, same thing. It's a disaster. Well, that's not bad. So this turn, I can Council's Judgment Revoker, then go for Pithing Needle and equip next turn. I have to leave them with a Vial to do that. So that may be short-sighted. I wish I had more time. If my opponent has, like, Recruiters and Flicker Wisp and stuff, taking out this Vial's so good. Despite the fact that I'm low on clock. I'm going to try to run down my opponent's resources here and just hope that I will draw into, like, a flyer, a removal spell, or something that will let me tear this game wide open. Okay, your Flicker Wisp resolves. You're just going to, like, flicker my Vial? Yes. Tap that. Put in Crusader. Oh. Well, that's very good as of next turn. So you give something protection from white in response. I stop your moms. I destroy your wasteland. I pass the turn. End step, I put in Sword of Fire and Ice, put that on Mirror Crusader, and start going to town on my opponent's creatures. It'll just be like the Abyss, destroy one creature a turn. Sure. I could have considered a Stoneforge Mystic attack there since Mom was off, but I don't know that that's something that I needed to do. This is not the sort of game that is going to be won or lost on a single point of life. That's interesting. This game's going to get weird, but I think it's okay. My opponent presumably chump blocks with the Revoker there to open up their own Jitte and try to have a window back into this game. Ooh, spicy blocks from my opponent here. So if I just equip my Jitte to my Stoneforge, I keep my opponent from going in with their own Jitte. Like, I get the Jitte counters active first, but I will lose my Stoneforge for doing so. No, I won't. That's okay. I'm just going to put in the Batterskull. Like, the Batterskull beats my opponent's Jitte counters very handily. And I don't know that my opponent can even go all in. on the jitte. They do. So like opponent can have some jitte counters there, but they probably just like really end up on the wrong side of the equation with everything else that's going on here. So we equip the Stoneforge to invalidate these jitte counters if my opponent wants to use them, and we put the jitte germ here. Opponent really would need something like a Serra Avenger there to have a chance to stay in the game. Like, they need something with 3 toughness that they can put the jitte onto. And without that, I don't really know where they go. I don't want to flinch with my jitte counters. If I flinch with my jitte counters, I could run into problems with Mirror Crusader again. So, like, I'm fine with my opponent choosing to chump block here. Like, I am A-okay with that. I don't think I need to go for the kill and just, like, walk into a trap my opponent might have for me. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Can't type. Not a lot, lost that much time to that. I guess this is better. That was not better. I'm in a hurry, as is very, very abundantly clear right now. Alright. Don't play D&T Mirrors while you're streaming or recording and spending time to talk about your lines. It doesn't work out well. I hope you enjoyed. We'll be back tomorrow. Obviously, the last turn or two there I could have played much more optimally, but I was more worried about my clock than anything else.